Hello, my name's Tom Lorentzen, and I'm the host of this TV show called Interesting People. It's filmed under the auspices of the Chabot Las Positas Community College District in Hayward, California. And the focus of the program has always been about there's interesting people everywhere. Today, and most people are not known. Today we're going to segue not only about interesting person, but two interesting persons and an interesting place and project. This interview is taking place in the town of Castro Valley, California, in the East Bay area. And I happen to be a member of a local historical society board. And I look at this project as a historical project. It's called the Castro Valley Marketplace. And Castro Valley 100 years ago was a rural town of maybe 10,000, 8,000, 5,000 people. It transitioned into a suburban community in the 1950s and forward. And now we're at a new stage where Castro Valley, with over 60,000 people, is stepping forward into a whole new era. And this building that we're in was one of the main projects that made Castro Valley take off around 1950, give or take. It was a department store called Daughtry's Department Store, after a family that brought a very wonderful department store to this town and did great service with great projects. Then this building sat here dormant for literally decades. And with that, a couple of individuals came forward, and one lead figure, and that is my guest today, Mr. Craig Semmelmeyer, here to my left. Welcome to the show, Craig.
Thank you for having me.
And my right here is Ken Carbone, a lifelong resident of Castro Valley, a businessman. He's also the chair of the Municipal Advisory Council here in Castro Valley. So we're going to start off this program by starting with Craig. You're a developer, you're a businessman. What brought you to even take a look at this building when it was sitting here with no purpose, no future to it? What was it that attracted you to this building?
Well, it's kind of funny looking back, and it starts reading the Sunday paper and reading about a MAC meeting where the developer that had been selected for this project is someone that I had known, so I was kind of interested in reading about that he had was unable to find tenants and develop the property, and was looking at the building, knowing downtown Castro Valley, and trying to figure out how he couldn't pull this off. My wife had a migraine headache, and I thought, well, I think I'll go for a drive. I'll go take a look at this building, and that's how I became aware of the opportunity. And really, in driving out here and looking at it, I quickly discovered, okay, here's what's wrong. Is he's got 39,000 feet. There's 15,000 feet of basement, 15,000 feet of the ground floor, 9,000 feet of mezzanine. But the building's 150 feet deep. It's designed as a department store. And in order to divide the building for multiple tenants, I'd need to make the front of the building the side. And there was a driveway between the ice creamery building, what belonged to them, and this building. And I thought, well, if we could simply capture that driveway and turn that into an outdoor space and reorient the building, we could turn this into a market hall. So kind of the initial inspirations of this took place in about 15 minutes. But those initial inspirations then lead to the optimism that, yes, we could actually do this. So that's our introduction to this project, and I would say that 90% of what you would see here today was figured out in 15 minutes.
That's rather amazing, Craig, and with that, I'm going to turn to Ken Carbone here, a lifelong resident of Castro Valley, as I virtually have been, was gone for a long time, came back here. But Ken, you've been a real community leader here, and like I say, you're chair of the Municipal Advisory Council now for Castro Valley. What was it that you were seeing what needed to be done here in Castro Valley to transition it into a new future. And then when Craig came on board, what did you see and what were you advocating at the time?
That's a good question. So many things have happened and transpired. Efforts to revitalize Castro Valley were done through redevelopment. And redevelopment was a way that monies and dollars that were spent in a community were reinvested. Castro Valley Boulevard was the first effort. The big picture was to do, we never envisioned a project like this, but part of the plan was to rebuild the boulevard. Originally it was Highway 50, which was the old Lincoln Highway, and it was a highway. Once Castro Valley kind of took ownership to it as a non-city, we didn't really have any dollars, and so the redevelopment dollars allowed that to happen. As we collected more money, we also decided to create the shared parking. And the shared parking lot, again, before, this is way pre-Marketplace, the shared parking lot was an opportunity for all the businesses to be able to collaborate and utilize a single parking place and help stimulate business. Still nothing happened, absolutely zero. Castro Valley had a rebuilt boulevard, we had some infrastructure pieces, but again, we had leadership. The county did everything that they could. I mean, they were not developers or business people that understood it. When Craig came to the table, him sharing a vision that most people would go out of this community to enjoy, that could actually be here in this space, it almost was a disconnect. We had so many people rallying around supporting the idea, and we had a lot of pushback. We had people in this community that absolutely thought this was a mistake. Fast forward to today, many of those people have come up and said, hey, you were right. The community was right. The decision was right. And they're all supporting this. Everybody, so.
But Ken, in a way, this is a very good example of a public-private sector partnership.
Absolutely.
Like say, with the county putting up funds to redesign Castro Valley Boulevard, the main street through Castro Valley,
Yep.
and for the parking area here to create a place where somebody like Craig could walk in and say, I can do something here. Is that a fair way of describing it?
Well, yes and no.
Okay.
My whole life I've heard so many people, oh, we need to do this, we need to do this. It would be great if someone would do this, but no one ever stepped forward. And the opportunity where someone actually saw the value of our community and saw what it had that we obviously were overlooking is a big part of what happened here. And so that's.
Growing up here at Ken and Craig, and even though I was gone for many years before I came back, the school system in Castro Valley has always been a very good school system, one of the better ones in the Bay Area. And then when they built Eden Hospital here 70 years ago, it attracted a medical community. So there was some good quality here, but there was no real place to gather. The Castro Village was built, which was a big step forward. But for the most part, it seemed like people went elsewhere. They lived in Castro Valley, but went elsewhere. But it struck me that this town always had great potential, but just had not been captured as of yet, until two of you came along and saw what could be done. Now, was there a model that you had worked on before, or done before, that you could see what could be done with this building and this area here?
I think, Tom, we never do a project that's identical. We're looking at a site, a time and place, a trade area, and what's possible. So when looking at this building, what made this possible for me to see this was I had spent 10 years in the grocery business. I understood what a market hall could be. I had recently worked with developer owner of the public market in Emeryville, and those experiences and lessons are brought to the table here. And then there's 30 years of experience in commercial real estate, and adding and overlapping all of that experience made it possible to execute this project with the lessons and, of course, mistakes that you make on any project. But it's those prior projects did position the skill sets, the experience to execute this project. And I've wanted to do a market hall for the last 30 years, but we haven't had the right project, trade area, and economics that could pull that together. And all of those pieces did align here, where I was able to take all that experience and put it to bear on this project. But those things happen with a community lender like Fremont Bank, who happens to have roots in Castro Valley, and they also said, hey, we see some potential. We'll get behind you and back you. It's people like Ken who didn't just say, hey, I'm going to approve this project, but he couldn't help himself and help solve issues and problems that we had on the way. I had no idea the Renaissance man that I was encountering and how his fingerprint would touch so many good things here in the marketplace.
Now, Craig, when you describe it as a market hall and you had this concept and this vision, the Castro Valley Marketplace, in a way, has already sort of become the gathering place for people in Castro Valley, even people outside of Castro Valley, to come here now. It's a place where things are happening. Can you share with the audience, myself, and what type of merchants have come here and how you've gone out to bring people in, the type of businesses that are located here to serve the public presently and going forward?
As we started putting together the team of partners and people that would make this a reality, I think the first thing is to identify what's my role here, and our role is to create a stage, and now we have to attract the actors to perform the play. And we happen to be fortunate. I've known Donna Leyburn from Alameda Natural Grocery for over 15 years, and knew that she was looking to expand. And although she wasn't looking in Castro Valley, she was looking in Oakland. I thought this would be a nice fit for her, and she came out and looked at the project, said, I don't know anything about Castro Valley, but this really could be a cool infrastructure and plant. Her team all got excited and agreed, and ironically, she's playing bridge in Castro Valley that night. So it's interesting, all of the people that we have here in the marketplace all have some tie into Castro Valley. They lived here. Their parents lived here. They opened a business here. So each of the members of the marketplace, Barron's Meats, they're a wonderful butcher shop, and they understood the marketplace. They were in Alameda, and they're the only tenant that we have, in addition to the natural grocery, that is from Alameda. The rest of the merchants are either very specialized, like Oaktown Spice, and they're local, they live in Oakland, but the merchants like Amphora Nueva. And we've known Nate Bradley and his family for years, and they have been in Castro Valley. They told me, they said, we'll never open an Amphora olive oil and vinegar shop in Castro Valley. And here they are today. Well, they lived here. They knew Castro Valley so well that it was not this. And so many projects we've worked on over the years where I generally am not intimidated or concerned when people tell me this community will not support what you see. Because if they believed it, it would have already happened.
Craig, it's interesting when you reference the stage and theater, and it strikes me because what I see is exactly what you just described. You've provided a stage here, and you've brought together the actors and actresses with their businesses. You made it a place for people to come and have good experiences, and whether it's food, dining, buying things. And I look at it sort of an art form. But you're a businessman, and you're, to me, doing theater and artwork here. You're creating, in a way, a new community through a nice presentation here, and I look at it as a form of art. Is that something that, what do you think on that, Ken?
Well, everything that you guys have been talking about is absolutely true. I see it a little differently.
Okay.
Everything in here is touched by some creativity. So let's just be clear. So much effort, so much expense for the experience of the person to come here has been considered. So that was really my draw. That when you had initially said, you guys, I was not involved in this idea. Craig, I had worked on this building for 20 years with the property owners trying to do something for our community. That was unthought. And it was all Craig's team and vision that came here with those ideas. I just couldn't help myself, as he said. Being able to be involved in some of the design and to be able to work on some of the projects in the building and contribute was huge for me. So I just want to make that clear. But the thing that I saw when this project was being proposed, I know from being a business owner how unbelievably difficult it is to open a business. And in the county, it's even double worse. It's worse. I mean, the difficulty level's amazing. If you're trying to say that a small building across the street for a bakery to be built, most people could never afford that. What they did was they designed a place that built the infrastructure for these small businesses to survive and to start. I mean, Julian, from the bakery, that's something he wanted to do in his life. And this opportunity came, and that stage was offered up to him, and he has just not looked back. And so
It's a good way of putting it. I can testify because I frequent your bakery here, and it's really outstanding. What we're going to do, Craig and Ken, is we're going to pause here and go into another segment. We're going to go to another location here at the Castro Valley Marketplace and discuss more about what you're doing for this experience, the merchants coming in here, and what you're bringing to this town, and outside this town too, because through this project, people are now saying, I want to go to Castro Valley and have this experience at the Castro Valley Marketplace. So with that, we're going to take a brief pause here for a public service announcement and then go to our next location, continue the conversation. It's going to be on the Paseo, in the patio here at the Castro Valley Marketplace.
Every day,
Millions of people
are connecting.
Father,
cosplayer,
Mentor.
actor. It's time we take a step forward, come together,
and discover
how accepting our differences can make us stronger.
Veterans, when you're struggling, soon becomes later, becomes someday, becomes when. Don't wait. Reach out.
Find resources at va.gov/reach.
Welcome back to Interesting People. My name is Tom Lorentzen, the host of this show done through the Chabot Las Positas Community College District. We're here at the Castro Valley Marketplace in Castro Valley, California with my guest, Craig Semmelmeyer, the developer of the marketplace, and Ken Carbone, a local business person and chair of the Municipal Advisory Council. Craig, I'm going to turn to you. We're sitting on the Paseo, the patio here. Tell us what's taking place here on the Paseo.
Well, Castro Valley and its downtown is adjacent to a 4-lane boulevard that has a lot of auto traffic, and it doesn't have a great sense of place. So we felt if we could close this street, driveway, and we could create a place that's a little quieter than the boulevard, we could create that outdoor area where public and private space would meet and would become Castro Valley's favorite place. And I think watching people use this space today, whether it's a Friday afternoon group that comes over here and meets for lunch every Friday, to moms that come here on Tuesday, and watch them bringing friends from out of Castro Valley. And I think we know we have a success when people in the community bring their guests from out of town to our place we've created. I think this Paseo is an extension of the marketplace, And it's that outdoor space that people have really been longing for in Castro Valley.
Yeah, I can see that's already happening, Craig. And you have a restaurant right here where people can get food and coffee, and a pastry shop where they can bring it outside. And tell us about the restaurants here in the marketplace that you have and that will be coming here.
We're fortunate we have the National Grocery features a prepared food section that's supported by a very substantial kitchen in the basement called Tomato. And so you can get really great offerings every day for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We have one of my favorite restaurants in the Bay Area, Akimi Sushi, and they have service out on the Paseo 3 days a week. They do full-service dining here on the Paseo, but they are open 7 days a week with food to go or food that people can pick up and take out on the Paseo. Seven Hills Bakery is a Castro Valley favorite. They have great morning pastries. They have a pizza Bianca, a pizza Romano of the day that are just fabulous. And we watch people come out here and consume that. The Cannery has become a Castro Valley favorite, and they're open breakfast, lunch, dinner, and now brunch every day. And that's been a phenomenal activator of the Paseo.
Yeah, and as you folks can see by watching this, there's a beautiful background here where people gather in the morning for breakfast, coffee, lunch, dinner, and they can have wine and beer out here with the restaurant.
Absolutely.
Now, do you have music here also, Craig?
We have been very fortunate to have a local talent that has put together a music program that I would say features artists you would find at Yoshi's. And that's something unique for Castro Valley to have that talent here. We're going to be seeing that music that's been on the Paseo start to move indoors, and that'll be taking place in the Night Owl Bar. They'll be opening shortly.
Oh, great. And Ken, just right over here, there's something else that's starting to happen. Can you tell us just a couple 100 feet away what's starting to happen as part of this whole big project?
Well, the start of the vision that Craig had brought to our community, kind of has grown some legs. To complete what has happened here with the shared parking, the boulevard improvements is within 200 feet is it was an old auto repair. Really wasn't a complement to the marketplace at all, not really. It could have just been purchased and kept the tenants, and it would have just stayed just the way it was, but that's not what happened here. The opportunity now to expand what the marketplace has brought to Castro Valley is now happening there. The building was started in 1949. It was a vintage Flying A gas station. And it was a car dealership, which, was the Antichrist of Castro Valley. Not sure why. But the car dealership, everything was still intact. And the building was built with a Quonset hut, if you even know what that is, but you'll see soon. We decided to restore the property, but now we've also, we've divided it into 3 places where we're going to be bringing in more business, more restaurants. Having the opportunity to work with Craig, I've got a whole different idea on how and why things are. And being able to bring businesses to our community that we need is not that complicated, but it takes a lot of vision to figure that out. Most people just put a sign on their building and wait for a tenant to show up. I mean, who even looks? We brought people here that never even seen Castro Valley, fell in love with it the second they got here, and now are making investments in our community. So I think, in hindsight, I think that's what was missing the whole time. And so, yeah.
That's interesting, Ken. So, Craig, what did you see now with the great vision you had for taking this building that nobody could figure out what to do with for decades, and you're doing something very artistic and creating a great experience here. Now you're going to broaden it and take it all the way up to the corner. What type of businesses are going to come in there? What's your plans for developing that corner?
Well, we're fortunate to have found a barbecue restaurant from the South Bay that will be taking and building the space to create a restaurant much the same way we might look at a project, Tom, where they build the restaurant to fit the community. So although they have other restaurants, they really work hard to be the community's restaurant. This will be a barbecue restaurant that there is nothing like it for miles. And we're thrilled with what they will be doing. They're going to be taking the Quonset hut part of the building, which is going to be a treat for people to walk in and see for the first time. The former gas station on the corner is going to be restored to its glory of 1950 as a Fly-Nay service station. And that space will also be a restaurant. We see that as a diner to kind of revisit the Americana experience that you would have expected to see. And ironically, in that gas station in 1950, part of the station was a restaurant.
Really?
So that to go back in time, the uses of what that could be. The showroom space for the auto dealership is this beautiful fishbowl, and we have high expectations for a great retail space there, and we feel an obligation to do something really special. It's a great stage, great platform, and we think it'll be a project that the community is really proud of. There will be over 150 outdoor seats at the different restaurants there. And again, creating more space, much like the Paseo, for people to gather.
That's fantastic, Craig, because like here where people gather, I come here, I just live a couple blocks away and come over here 2, 3, 4 times a week. So now you're going to create a similar experience. Now the barbecue place, is that going to have a brewery too?
They are a really wonderful family that operates the barbecue. They own a brewery called Promised Land that serves and sells primarily through the barbecue restaurants because they sell so much beer that they sell out within themselves. They also have great relationships with other craft brewers, and this will be a wonderful addition and a nice tap room and a great experience for Castro Valley and the surrounding communities. I would expect that we'll see, instead of people driving to Danville to go out to dinner, we'll start to see people driving from Danville to Castro Valley to come out to dinner.
And that's what I'm already hearing, Craig, and because myself, a lot of other people, we would go to Danville, we'd go to Dublin, we'd go to Walnut Creek to have dinner. Now people are staying here and people are coming, like you say, from over there to dine here. So again, you're creating a whole new experience here in Castro Valley. You're sort of changing, to me, the paradigm of the town and making it a place where people used to stay here and go elsewhere and live here, good community. Now people are coming here to have a good experience. And that really goes back, I think, to what the two of you have been spearheading. You, Craig, as a business person, and you as a community leader, Ken. So where do you see the future of Castro Valley going now with this great project taking place?
Well, it's finally happened. All the years that I spent on every commission, board, volunteer, everything that I've been involved in, it finally is starting to materialize. And, my whole life living here, it was unfortunate that every time I wanted to go out to dinner that I was leaving town. And now I spend more of my time down here, which is exactly what I was hoping to do, before I died, So, it's taken a long time. I think now the energy is continually just building here. And I think we're going to just see it's just going to multiply. And this is the center of downtown. Okay. And it's happening. And I think the most rewarding thing out of everything that we've done is watching people enjoy themselves. They don't know why. You see them sitting there with their families and all kinds of stuff. And it's kind of, it's heartwarming to see it. And you see them on the street, and it's just stuff that just didn't happen in my lifetime. So, yeah.
Okay, when you mentioned a Quonset hut, because I'm old enough to know what those were and are. Yeah. In fact, I went to Chabot College, which is where this TV show operates under the auspices. The original Chabot College was a temporary campus with Quonset huts down in San Leandro before they built the campus on Hesperian Boulevard. And we did an interview with Reed Buffington, the first chancellor there. Yeah. Who opened that college in a matter of months with temporary buildings, portables, Quonset huts, and he was a real take-charge person. This is one of the things that I think a lot of people appreciate. I know you and I do, Ken, about appreciating the history. And we're going to, a little bit later, we're going to talk about A.B. Morris, a person who just made things happen in this town starting 100 years ago for virtually a half a century and really took it forward. And that's what I sort of see what you're doing, Craig, in particular, is you're taking us to the next level through this tremendous vision that you have for the Castro Valley Marketplace, now expanding over there. And I know people keep telling me, I want to come and see what's happening in Castro Valley. So, and with the restaurant and they're going to have will be a brew pub there as well, or not necessarily?
It'll be a tap room.
Tap
They
room,
won't brew
okay.
on premises. They do brew their own beer, Promised Land, but they have tremendous relationships within the craft brewing industry, and so you'll see beer that you might not find at other places. They're paired with the barbecue.
You know, the East Bay has such great weather, and yet more often than not, we haven't taken advantage of it for outdoor dining. And now more and more of that is taking place, particularly COVID helped to accelerate that for people dining outside. And you're going to have, how many people can be seated outside eventually?
There'll be room for over 150 seats outside.
For both of the restaurant businesses, and I did miss one thing that I wanted to share with you about that, is that this building in this corner is uncovering, Castro Valley history. And so part of this restoration effort was to showcase kind of what was here during the days of the Highway 50, the old Lincoln Highway, everything that has gone on here, this building was participated in. And so it's kind of, people walk by and they're just mesmerized with it because you'd never build anything like this today. So it's kind of cool. And hopefully people will come and experience that.
And I know Ernie and Sharon Daughtry and their family. It was his father that brought the first department store to the town, then later built this building. And I know how proud Ernie and Sharon Daughtry are because they did so much, their family, to contribute to this town. And what you're doing to take this building and create a whole new purpose to this, I think it's really a tremendous thing. And the way you're staying consistent with Castro Valley history. Like you mentioned about that corner, I mentioned it earlier, Ken, I got run over on that corner in 1950. So I've got a memory. I survived.
I survived getting run over by a tank. It's amazing that you did. I couldn't even believe that even happened. But yeah.
1948 Buick, and I'm still here.
And he's still here, so. Yeah.
So will there be do you think there'll be any entertainment down there as well, outside? Any thoughts on that? Is that totally up to the merchant to do something like that?
I know the barbecue operator has programmed entertainment in their other restaurants. It's important to them. The nice thing for them is they have their own contained space, and they'll be able to do that programming themselves in touch with their customers.
Yeah.
That sounds great. And here we are now. We're getting towards the end of October, and the weather's good to be sitting outside. I know the Paseo is going to be full here for lunch today, and you'll have a good crowd. And what we're going to do now is take a brief pause for a public service announcement. And then we'll move to the next segment, which is going to be to go downstairs to the Cordial Cellar. I call it the wine bar. And it's a great place. And then we're going to continue the interview from there. And Ken, I think you're going to perhaps take off from now. Thank you for joining us, Ken.
Appreciate it.
And we will be back in just a minute or so after the public service announcement and go to the next portion of this interview.
She protects me, I protect her. I'm in the fire department and I'm in the National Guard.
I was tasked to administer the vaccine. I saw firsthand what we were dealing with.
Her mom is very immune compromised.
We've not lost anyone from COVID. So much of that is due to the vaccine. I don't know what would have happened if my mom would have gotten COVID. People are worried about the vaccine and what effects that might have later. I'm worried about living right now. I want to enjoy my mom and my grandparents. This time right now is precious to me.
My grandfather was a case in that study. He worked as a firefighter where the Tuskegee Airmen trained. He and I were phenomenally close. The syphilis study happened for 40 years. Penicillin was found to be the most effective treatment, but the men were denied the treatment. Interestingly enough, I've had someone tell me that they were concerned about getting the vaccine because of the syphilis study. And I always try to educate or provide some information about what happened. But then I said, you're talking about something that happened to my family. And I've taken both of my vaccines. I'm doing this for them. Health is greater than wealth, and it's really up to us to take ownership of our health and this story.
Welcome back to Interesting People. My name's Tom Lorentzen, the host of this show. We have now moved into the lower level here at the Castro Valley Marketplace to the Cordial Cellar and Lounge. And we've added, Ken Carbone has left, and we have Simon Tingstrom here. And he and his wife founded this, and then Craig Semmelmeyer is back with us. Craig, when you were looking at trying to figure out what to do here, and I guess you would call it cellar. I remember they used to have merchandise here from the department store down here. And the idea, how did you figure out what to do with this, and how did you find somebody like Simon to come in here and make the vision come to a reality?
Well, in the building, there's 15,000 square feet of total space, and so how do we use that space was important to resolve. The natural grocery has about half of their space on the ground floor, and the other half is in the basement, kitchen storage. There's storage for all of the merchants and some common infrastructure. We wanted to have a wine shop, bottle shop, wine bar in the basement. It felt like the natural thing that it wanted to be. And I think finding a local team that had the experience, had the energy and passion to activate and create this. And I think, Tom, we were talking earlier about, to be a retailer today, you have to have a natural instinct to want to create something for your community. It has to go beyond just the profit experience. Otherwise, that may not be enough in today's retail world. And Stacy and Simon were very connected. They had built a business in San Leandro that the community and their neighborhood loved. They had customers that would come in just to experience the relationships they had built with their staff and with them. It became part of their everyday ritual and experience. And that's what we're looking for when we're looking for a merchant. It's someone that can build those connections, and they've done a wonderful job of starting that here in the marketplace.
They sure have, Simon. The first time I came downstairs here, as you were preparing to open, and I saw the display there on A.B. Morris, and I stopped and I thought, holy cow. There's history here, and here's this wonderful wine bar restaurant where you can buy wine. And because Craig has done such a good job capturing Castro Valley history here in a business environment, a commercial environment for the public. Tell us about how you have that in your beautiful copper relief here in this wonderful Cordial Lounge downstairs.
Sure, thanks, Tom. So as you referenced, A.B. Morris is an antecedent of mine. He's my great-grandfather. So our family's been around Castro Valley since Castro Valley's been here, really. This space was the first commercial space Stacy and I got to design ourselves. We're both fairly designy people. And what we allowed to inform the design aesthetic is a building that's about 2 blocks from here, the A.B. Morris Adobe Art Center. So that building, my great-grandpa built that building. It went on to become the first elementary school in Castro Valley. It served a number of purposes over the years. Nowadays it's kind of an art gallery, come meeting space. But over the mantelpiece in that building is a very prominent copper piece of artwork that my great-grandfather had commissioned. And when we were building this space, one of the kind of grand concepts was, well, what if we had that building? What if we turned that into a wine bar? What would that look like, and what would that feel like? So we allowed that to inform a lot of the decisions that we made, including having this big copper backsplash behind the bar, which serves a couple purposes. It's a nice reflective surface. It does, of course, call back to that original insulation, but also as you descend the stairs here, you're coming into this kind of what you expect to be a gray, maybe cold-feeling, almost industrial sort of a space, and this really warms that up and creates this hearth-like element, especially contrasted with the plaster walls and kind of the grays and blacks and the other hues that are going on in this room. The copper helps to kind of create this beckoning, warming kind of experience.
And so you and your wife, Stacy, came up with the design based upon the A.B. Morris Adobe Art Center?
Yeah, loosely.
Yeah. Well, I think it's got a wonderful feel to it, and because actually I met your great-grandfather when I was younger, and actually your father too, Al Tingstrom, who was a great grandfather, who was a great teacher at Marshall School, and the continuity of the history of Castro Valley here in the marketplace, and now with your Cordial Cellar and wine bar here. Tell us about, now you're serving food here now too? You also have a restaurant here?
We do. That was always the intent. We didn't want to limit ourselves to being strictly retail. That's what we do at our other shop. But here we wanted to have a more immersive customer experience, get people to hang around a little more, and create kind of a third space where people can come and enjoy themselves. To that end, and there's multiple reasons for doing that. It's a more enjoyable aspect of the job for us. It's diversifying kind of the profit potential of our businesses, which is has proved to be very important during the pandemic. And also we wanted a space where families could come. So in order to do that, if you don't have a restaurant and you're just a bar, you're really limiting your clientele potential to just 21 and over. And that's just the way the licensing works. So when we decided to have an on-site experience, we realized quickly that, well, this is Castro Valley. We have to, it's very much a bedroom community. You really have to have an all ages experience if you're going to expect people to come here year-round and in the numbers that we need in order to sustain our business.
Sure. And you're having wine tasting events here and dinners here as well?
Yeah, that's correct. Currently, we do weekly scheduled events. We have dedicated nights like our Wednesday night wine tastings, which is when we have a guided wine tasting from 5 o'clock to 7 o'clock. What that consists of, it'll either be the winemaker or somebody with some expertise in a wine coming in and kind of leading the clientele through the wines that we're tasting. And it'll be a different theme or a different grower, a different book every single week. So that's what that is. And those wines, you can always taste wine here. A lot of folks are kind of under the impression that that's the only time you can come in and taste a wine. That's not the case. If the door is open, really the wine bar is open. We pour wines by the glass. We have beers on tap. We've got various flights, including those wines that we tasted the prior Wednesday. We'll allow that as a continuation, what we call the rerun flight, until the next tasting event happens.
Now, are you open 6 nights a week or 7?
We're open 7 days a week.
7, wow.
Yeah. And then just to continue off that, we have a special event that we call our Supper Club, which is a prix-fixe menu. And that's where myself, I'm the chef de cuisine, and my chef partner, that's where we get to kind of create a menu that's, again, of a different theme every week. And we highlight wines that can go along with that food.
See.
So it could be a different regional cuisine. Last week was kind of an Indian theme. This week would be kind of a Florentine theme. But it allows us a chance to kind of stretch our legs.
And you're having music here periodically too?
We are. So during those supper club nights, we have a small jazz combo that plays here. Friday nights we have piano. It's basically a piano bar, and then there's sometimes some additional instrumentation gets brought in to accompany the piano.
Craig, this is really just, again, continuing to expand the wonderful opportunity for new experiences here in Castro Valley, dining, wine bar, and as you're making this in a way to a community center, and I go back long enough where your great-grandfather was the key figure building this community going back 100 years ago and for half a century, and how I'm looking, and I write a column, and I once referred to your great-grandfather as the godfather of Castro Valley, but he was a master artist. in building this town with the schools as the centerpiece, good architecture in the original elementary school on the boulevard here, the A.B. Morris Adobe Art Center with the great art copper relief that they have there. And Craig, now you've been continuing that tradition that A.B. Morris set, and it's right here in the wine bar with this. Do you have any future plans for how you're going to make this continue to grow and become a real place for people in Castro Valley, but also around the East Bay and maybe from even San Francisco to come over here?
We are excited about the additional things that we can bring to the marketplace through the pop-out kitchen, the remaining retail spaces. So we still are looking for that special florist. We're looking for a dessert or patisserie offering. We're signing a coffee roaster to a retail space. So adding those extra special little jewels. Also, through the pandemic, we've been more focused on the essential businesses. And with the pandemic coming to an end, we're now able to do more of the gathering, more of the special events. And I think that Stacy and Simon have kind of unlocked this space. And they've made this into a favorite place for many people. And they will be able to really flourish as they can unleash this opportunity for people to have special events, parties. And this is a space that was designed for people to have and create memories for their family or just a gathering.
Tell us about your wine selection here. It's quite diverse. Tell us a little bit about the broad selection you have here for people to enjoy.
Sure. So we have wines from all over the world. We frequently, when a customer is new to the space, they'll ask us if we just specialize in local wines. That's not something we do. We do enjoy local wines, local products, local spirits and beers, of course. But we have a number of criteria that we like our wines and our other offerings to meet. And it has to do with things like sustainability, small footprint, how independent the ownership is of the business, whether it's family run and operated, size of production, whether those products that they produce can be found at big box retailers. We don't want to have a lot of overlap with that, so we've got all these criteria. And then the wine, we have to enjoy it, we have to like it. It's got to be decent value for what it is. And it's got to generally be a good representation of what that wine style is, be it a French Bordeaux or a Central Coast Pinot Noir. We want to be able to glean the winemaker's intent from the bottle. And our selections do a pretty good job of doing that. And again, it goes for our beers and our spirits as well.
You have quite an expertise in wine and spirits. How did you develop this expertise? Did you study it?
Sure, yeah, I did. So I came up, many of my first jobs were in the food industry, in service and in cooking and in beverage service. So there was a onus to kind of learn on the job. So in addition to doing that, I've gone through a number of tastings and meetings and visits and hosted events with people in the industry, with winemakers, and various wine estates. And since we've had the shop in San Leandro, that's broadened out much more to the spirits and to the beer sides of things.
Okay. I just had an observation looking at this wonderful place here where I have been here several times already. I enjoyed your wines here. I look at this as sort of a very high-end, very tasteful wine speakeasy in a way here in the basement. It's a place to be discovered. And then when I bring people here, they say, wow, they're just amazed that this is here.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I hope the implication isn't that it's a secret or that it's private. No. It's not. It's open to the public. Please come down, support us. But yeah, I do know what you mean about it being kind of a hidden gem.
Yeah. Well, that's part of the discovery process, which I think is taking place in a way about the entire marketplace, the town of Castro Valley, and your nice wine cellar here and wine bar. What are your plans moving forward, Simon, looking to the years ahead?
Sure. So we are going to be increasing our offerings, whether that be through wine club membership or through an increase in kind of the products that we carry and the services that we offer, like private event service, which we already do a business in, but we need to kind of maximize the possibilities there. And as well as offsite catered events, we have a catering license, so we might be exploring that as an avenue. It's all dependent on kind of the minutia of the inner workings of this place.
Well, Craig, we were talking earlier about the importance of entrepreneurship, people willing to take a chance, to take a risk with their own funding, money that's loaned to them. And Simon, you've really been very bold here in your investment here in developing this, and Craig the same way with the marketplace here. And I just want to share that I think that's it's incredible. I don't mean to be a PR machine, but I think that's incredible what you've been doing here at the marketplace and what you're doing here with your Cordial Cellar and Wine Bar. And so in wrapping up here, because we're going to end the interview, this is the last segment of this, and I want to thank you very much for doing what you're doing here for the town of Castro Valley, the East Bay, with the marketplace, Craig, and your business team, Simon, you and your wife Stacy, because this is really a turning point in the history of Castro Valley, which goes back to your great-grandfather. And I think people ought to come here and look at the display about him and see the wonderful wine bar that you have here. So thank you very much for being on the show here, Simon. And Craig, thank you very much for all you're doing and for being on the show here. And thank you, everybody, for watching the program today.